Two 90-Day Fiancé cast members are guilty of issues that drive me up the wall every season, Part 1. The new season had barely begun when viewers once again found themselves talking about two familiar cast members. Every year, the show introduced new couples, new dreams, and new challenges, yet somehow the same patterns always seemed to return. Among all the excitement, these two personalities stood out for reasons that sparked endless discussions. Their names were mentioned across fan communities almost every week. Some people admired their confidence, while others felt frustrated by the choices they continued to make. What made the situation interesting was that neither of them appeared to be bad people. They simply had habits that created problems again and again. The first cast member, Daniel, always believed he knew the best solution to every problem. Whenever his partner tried to explain her feelings, he immediately offered advice instead of listening. At first, his intentions seemed good. He genuinely wanted things to work out. However, as time passed, it became clear that his constant need to control situations often made things more difficult. One afternoon, Daniel and his fiancée Sophia sat together in a small cafe. Sophia wanted to discuss plans for their future home. She had spent days researching neighborhoods and gathering information. Excited to share her ideas, she opened her notebook and began showing him her notes. Before she could finish her first sentence, Daniel interrupted. "I already looked into that," he said confidently. Sophia smiled politely and continued speaking. Again, Daniel interrupted. "I think there's a better option." A few minutes later, he had completely taken over the conversation. By the time they left the cafe, Sophia's notebook remained mostly unopened. The situation was familiar to viewers who had watched previous seasons. Daniel often entered discussions believing he had all the answers. Unfortunately, this habit prevented him from understanding what other people truly wanted to say. Meanwhile, another cast member, Melissa, struggled with a completely different issue. Melissa loved attention. Whenever she entered a room, she naturally became the center of focus. Her confidence attracted people, and cameras seemed drawn toward her energy. However, she often created unnecessary drama simply because she disliked being left out of conversations. At a family gathering, Melissa's fiancé, Ethan, introduced her to several relatives. Everyone welcomed her warmly. The evening started peacefully. Family members shared stories, laughed together, and enjoyed a large dinner. Then Ethan's cousin began talking about her upcoming wedding. For several minutes, everyone listened with excitement. Melissa smiled, but inside she felt uncomfortable. The attention was no longer on her. Soon she interrupted the conversation. "That reminds me of my own wedding plans," she announced. Immediately, the topic shifted. Instead of discussing Ethan's cousin, the group spent the next half hour talking about Melissa. Some family members exchanged quiet glances. Others remained silent. Ethan noticed the change, but chose not to say anything. When the gathering ended, a few relatives privately admitted that Melissa seemed unable to let others enjoy their special moments. Back at home, Ethan carefully brought up the subject. "I think my cousin felt a little disappointed," he said gently. Melissa looked surprised. "Why?" "She wanted to share her news." "I was just sharing mine too," Melissa replied. From her perspective, she had done nothing wrong. That was what made the situation so complicated. Neither Daniel nor Melissa intentionally tried to upset people. Instead, they repeated behaviors they barely noticed themselves. As the season continued, these patterns became even more visible. Daniel planned a meeting with Sophia's parents. He wanted to make a strong impression. Days before the visit, Sophia suggested practicing a few phrases in her family's native language. "It would mean a lot to them," she explained. Daniel nodded. "That sounds nice." However, he never practiced. When the meeting finally arrived, Sophia's parents welcomed him warmly. The conversation began smoothly. Then language barriers created a few awkward moments. Sophia quietly reminded Daniel about the phrases she had taught him. Instead of trying, he laughed and said he didn't need them. The room became noticeably quieter. Her parents